What's this, gang? A little surprise for you, not our regularly scheduled episode.
Yeah, we're like the Easter Bunny. Easter is this coming Sunday. And look in your basket, a sweet treat.
Yeah, 2 episodes this week, hopefully. Here's the deal. We recorded our Patreon episode, a Comically Reel review of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and Lisa and I had so much fun recording that episode. We had to share it with the rest of you.
I don't know who did it, but somebody let the dogs out.
Somebody let the dogs out.
And I'm going to get to the bottom of it.
Yeah. We have 29 patrons.
Yes.
This episode would not be in existence without them. So we got to send a lot of love to our 29 patrons. You guys are the best. We hope that those that aren't patrons who are listening to this episode can get a little taste of what we're doing over in that other feed and may want to join us. If not, that's fine. I do think you're still going to have a great time with this review of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, although we take like 17 minutes to get to that review.
Yeah. Well, Brad attended South by Southwest.
We had a lot going on last week.
So yeah, and we had to talk.
Yeah, we had to talk it out.
We had to chit-chat.
Maybe we had to deal with some relationship stuff on the air as well.
Yeah.
So you'll hear that too. Anyway, here's our theme song. Let's get this show going.
Bum bum bottom 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 bum bum doobie doobie da 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 doobie doobie da 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 doobie doobie da 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 bottom bum bum bottom
Hello, friends. Welcome back to yet another episode of Comically Reel. With me, as always, it's that eternal life partner of mine, Lisa Gullickson. Hello.
Hello, Brad. I'm bright-eyed and bushy-tailed.
Oh, okay.
And anticipating your cues.
Oh, I'm glad you're bright-eyed and bushy-tailed because I am absolutely beat.
You're tie-tie.
I'm super tie-tie. We just got done with South by Southwest, the virtual experience. My first time covering South by Southwest. And even though oh, boy, wouldn't it be great to be in Austin amongst the people with the festival? The reality is I wouldn't be there if it wasn't virtual. And we talked about this somewhere in our back catalog of comic book couples counseling. But I made the choice, or I leaned heavily into not covering Sundance this year because it was virtual.
And I was a little irritato because I feel like I don't have, because I'm working full time. Mm-hmm. I don't have the gravitas to get the hookup for the covering Sundance or South by Southwest or any of these virtual film festivals. And I feel like we were missing out.
I don't think that's actually true, Lisa. You keep saying that, but we covered Sundance not through Film School Rejects or any of my connections. We covered it exclusively through In the Mouth of Darkness, and we pitched ourselves as In the Mouth of Darkness, and we got in through In the Mouth of Darkness, which is our other podcast.
I sell myself short.
I think you do. So we could have covered Sundance this year.
But I couldn't have done it alone because, you would be, I guess I would be working or not working. I don't know.
Well, this is the weird thing about the pandemic year is, normally we would take off 2 weeks, cover Sundance. You would get off your day job. I would get off my day job, and we would immerse ourselves in Sundance. It feels weird to fully immerse yourself in a virtual experience. And so you didn't really feel comfortable taking off this past week.
I would have if we had planned for it. Where, we could still do Sundance. I could still take off of work. You could still take off of work and we can do it. But you didn't want to.
Okay, that's true.
And you didn't want to do South by Southwest.
That's true.
And then on impulse, You submitted to South by Southwest?
No, I never actually submitted to South by Southwest.
Oh, so you just got FSR just hooked you up?
Well, FSR submitted me.
Okay.
Because like a couple weeks before South by Southwest, Neil, head honcho, Big Cheese over at Film School Rejects, asked who would be interested in covering South by Southwest. And with that question put out there,
by your boss, you say yes. But when it's put out there by your wife, you're like, no, thank you.
That's correct. That's correct.
But all that being said, I didn't get to take off of work.
So you didn't take off of work for South by Southwest?
I didn't get to take off of work.
You didn't get to?
Because we didn't anticipate it.
We didn't plan it. And because I was so crabby over Sundance, I'm putting this all on me, Lisa.
I know, me too.
Don't think I'm skirting my responsibilities in these poor decisions. I was, oh gosh, this is not what our listeners want to hear. But I was not in a good headspace in January when Sundance was happening. Mm-hmm. This past year, movie-wise, I've not been having a ton of fun watching movies and talking about movies, frankly.
Yeah.
And so I disengaged from a lot of those virtual festival experiences because I felt like, virtual, bleh. Maybe I was turning my nose up at them a little bit. Maybe I was like, well, what's the point of covering a film festival if I can't be amongst the people? That's where this conversation started on this podcast.
Right.
And because my boss said, who wants to cover this thing? And I said yes. I then got to cover South by Southwest from home, and I discovered how much I loved it, and that Lisa was right, and I should have not fought you in covering Sundance in the first place. So I do have a regret, because I do believe if I had covered Sundance virtually, I would have been re-energized over the cinematic experience earlier than right now today, because I've watched now 24 films in 5 days, and I had an absolute blast immersing myself, even virtually, and I wish I had done that for Sundance. So I am sorry, this is me coming onto our Patreon, which we were going to talk about The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but now I'm apologizing to you.
That's right. You guys are investing financially in hearing that I am right. But I'm playing up my disappointment a little bit, because even though I couldn't fully participate in South by Southwest because I did have to work, it was kind of nice to come home and get to watch a new movie.
Yeah, and you watched a bunch of movies this week.
I did. I didn't watch 24 or however many you watched.
No, you did not. But before we move on, was there a South by Southwest film that you would recommend to our listeners to keep their eye out?
I really loved the last one we watched, Language Lessons.
That was so good.
I wish I had the information.
It's directed by Natalie Morales, co-starring her and Mark Duplass.
And it is the perfect Quar movie without actually being about COVID-19.
Yeah.
It's about a guy whose spouse signs him up for virtual Spanish lessons, and then they develop this relationship. That's all I'm going to say, because that's all I thought going in.
Yeah.
And I had a preconceived notion about what that was going to be, and it was so not that.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be a romantic comedy set in COVID.
Uh-huh.
That's what I thought it was going to be. And then 5 minutes in, something happens, and I'm sure they're going to spoil that in trailers.
Oh, they better not. Guys, don't read anything about this.
Because, when that happened, whoa!
This storytelling, Natalie Morales, I am on board for watching anything that she directs, because even with this limited, mostly it's told through screens, the storytelling was exquisite.
Yeah.
The design was really wonderful and eclectic, and I just really loved this movie, and I love Mark Duplass.
So Mark Duplass is great. Watch Paddleton. That's on Netflix. Mark Duplass and Ray Romano. That's essential viewing.
And that's a one that's directed by Mark Duplass.
Right.
But this wasn't
No, that wasn't directed by, that was produced by Mark Duplass. It was directed by Lehman. Remember, because we interviewed the director.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I'm so rude. I forgot that guy.
But watch Paddleton, because that's great.
It's wonderful. You'll cry a lot.
And I've seen other screen movies like Unfriended Dark Web, Open Windows, and I've never really engaged with that medium of storytelling. And so I wasn't necessarily I can't wait to watch this lockdown movie told through screens, But this film, like you said, the storytelling of it, the craft of structuring this narrative around these screens.
I had moments when I was like gasping.
Yeah.
I was genuinely surprised by visuals.
Actual jaw drops.
So good. That was my favorite. I also really liked the one about Alien on Stage.
Oh, the documentary about a group of British bus drivers from Dorset putting on a community theater production of Ridley Scott's Alien.
I know you guys are comic book people, but I know some of you are also movie people and general media people and horror people and sci-fi people. And maybe there are some fellow community theater people. I don't know. You can tell me. This is a safe space.
The CBCC audience contains multitudes.
Yeah, but this is a documentary. But it's like if the British, The Office, and Waiting for Guffman had a baby. It'll blow your mind that this is both real and I guess not supposed to be a comedy. But I was like laughing. I got choked up at one moment.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect comparison. I don't think at any point this film is mocking the people involved.
No, it's utterly sincere.
Yes.
It's utterly sincere. In a way that, like, it's like an arrow, a Hawkeye arrow, right directly to my feels.
Yeah, very good movie, very good documentary.
Cross section of a lot of my nerdy stuff.
Yeah, I think our folks would really enjoy it. My recommendations that are for two films that you didn't get to watch that I think comic book fans would like is this Norwegian film called Ninja Baby, which is about a cartoonist, a comic book artist, who finds herself pregnant. And she thinks she can just go and get an abortion. But when she goes to her doctor, she discovers she's actually 6 months pregnant. And even though, most of the time you show, there are certain times that you don't show. And now she has to carry this baby to term. And so, it's a ninja baby. Like, how did that baby get in there? And the way she imagines this child inside her is through the cartoon of a ninja baby talking to her. So there's animation throughout. And I really responded strongly to this film as a childless person, a person who has no desire to have a kid to be
child-free is what I like to say, because we're not less.
Yeah, child-free. A child-free person, because I just don't have that paternal instinct in me whatsoever, and this character doesn't either. And I don't think that the story, even though I don't want to spoil it, but this is not like a pro-life movie or a pro-choice movie. That's not what's at stake here. It's what do you want? Like, how do you see yourself?
Yeah.
How do you see yourself as a human being? What do you want out of life? And it did not portray my child-free feelings. To me, this is like a champion film for child-free humans.
Yeah, there's not a lot of those.
It's hard to talk about without spoiling it.
To me, I didn't see it, obviously.
No.
We already said that.
That's right.
But I'm a little disappointed it's not about actual baby ninjas.
Same.
And it also, you talking to me about it in a little bit more detail kind of reminds me of the story of Tessa Fowler.
Oh, yes.
The illustrator, cartoonist online who
we love.
And she's been illustrating the story of her breast cancer.
Yes.
I've been following her on Twitter. And it just kind of that when you're an artist, any kind of artist, you have a way of this is how I'm processing.
Yes. Yes.
And so to me, that's what
Ninja Baby is. When I feel like I do such a disservice trying to talk about Ninja Baby because it seems like a much heavier film than it is. Mm-hmm. But it's more about what you're talking about, using art to figure out what the heck you're doing in life.
Yeah.
And so I respond so strongly to that. And I think comic book readers would respond positively to that. The other film that I want to recommend is going to your mileage may vary, as they say, with it, and that is the rotoscoped animated film The Spine of Night that Lisa does not give two shits about. I tried to get her to watch a few seconds of it, and she was like, "No, what's this fantasy BS? I do not care."
When any piece of art is metal forward. There's something in me that just scoffs, and it's not fair.
Yeah. So like this is, it's like DC's death metal. It's not Wonder Woman Dead Earth, which is legit metal as fuck.
Yeah.
But this is, I'm going to show you how metal I am. It's Metalopocalypse, if you remember that cartoon.
Yeah, I don't like anything that it has the trappings. The trappings.
But yeah, I get it. And I'm not going to ever convince you that you're going to like The Spine of Night. What I appreciate about it is there's no wink in the movie. It is also very sincere in its storytelling. It is obviously an homage to the collaboration of Ralph Bakshi and Frank Frazetta and the film Fire and Ice, plus like those other Bakshi films, the Lord of the Rings animated films that he did.
Snooze.
Heavy Metal, the anthology animated film. I love all those things. Lisa hates all of them. That's okay.
We're different.
But yeah, we're different. And so it's about and it opens, like the movie opens and there's a large-breasted, actually she's like completely nude woman.
Sounds
bottomless.
amazing.
She's got some jewelry made from human bones as a necklace and on her gauntlets. And she's trudging up this snowy mountain. She's voiced by Lucy Lawless. And if you see that image and you're just like, I'm out from this like childish adolescent male fantasy, I get it, and I won't fault you for it.
Sounds chilly. It sounds first and foremost, it sounds chilly.
She looked chilly. And she goes up to the top of the mountain, and she encounters the Guardian Knight. And the Guardian Knight is voiced by Richard Grant.
And what is he wearing?
He's wearing
everything.
He's
completely covered.
He's fully
head
armored.
to toe. I didn't see this, but I know.
He's got this great helmet.
He gets a helmet.
He gets a helmet. He's fully clothed. He's look, adolescent boy fantasy film. That's what this is. And what she's gone up to the top of this mountain because this is the source of this flower that they're calling the bloom. And this flower has magical properties and it is being misused below the mountain. And she's telling this guardian who guards the secret of the bloom what's going on. And then it's told in sort of like this anthology format where we see pieces of various stories centered around the atrocities being committed under the bloom, for all that stuff. Okay. And it's crazy violent. It's filled with tits and blood. I loved every second of it.
I love tits and blood.
It's got an excellent voice cast. Lucy Lawless, Richard Grant, already mentioned. Patton Oswalt's in it. Deathstroke, Big Dick Ritchie from Magic Mike. What's his name? Joe Montiliano.
He has one of those like
names that I cannot say.
Italian last names.
Yeah. You guys all know that I can't pronounce anything. Anyway, Spine of Night, super violent. Check it out if you think it's your thing. If you had one of those murals on the side of your van in the 80s, this is the movie for you, okay? If you didn't, just go like, Brad is such a 13-year-old boy, and you're right. Okay?
I mean, I was out at Last Unicorn. Is that also a Bakshi film?
No, I don't think I've never seen The Last Unicorn, so I don't think it is.
It is Snoozetown, USA.
I'm not a huge fan of Bakshi. Like, Fritz the Cat, like, he does not make things that I love, but I do love Frank Frazetta, I do love Fire and Ice, and I do love The Spine of Night. So Spine of Night, that's our recommendation that's my recommendation. Also Ninja Baby, and then I co-signed Lisa with language lessons. And what was the other one that you said?
The Alien one.
Oh, Alien on Stage. So yeah, seek those out.
I also like The Fallout.
The Fallout was good too, but The Fallout was a great movie about a topic that is hard for me to watch about school shootings, gun violence.
I think considering what it was about, school shootings.
Yeah.
I found the characters really warm, relatable, watchable.
Yeah. So, yeah. Okay. Lisa, we've been talking for 17 minutes and we have not even scratched the surface of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which is what we're promising with this episode. The first episode dropped on Disney Plus this past Friday. It's 6 episodes long. This episode's called New World Order. I'm sure we're going to return to this series at the end and do a full review. Not a recap, but a full review of the series when it's all said and done, like we did with WandaVision. So, Lisa.
Yes, I have one thing to say.
Okay.
The Last Unicorn was Rankin and Bass. Okay. And I apologize.
No, that's fine. Falcon Winter Soldier. Were you excited for this show coming off of WandaVision, and did it live up to your excitement or lack thereof?
I would say I was, like, in terms of Marvel things, like, of course I was excited. Sure. I'm excited about all things Marvel. Was I as excited as I was going into WandaVision? No. Yeah. You guys know that. And was after WandaVision, and was I like, bring on Falcon and Winter Soldier? I was like, no, I'm really super satisfied. I'd be happy if we just continued talking about WandaVision until next summer. Like, I'm so excited.
Yeah.
But this show, with this opening episode, as Marvel always does, even though my expectations are so stupid high, like, it exceeded my expectations.
Cool.
To me, I thought, like, with Falcon and Winter Soldier, they would be doing something way more, like, standard TV format. Like, okay, let's have a bad guy of the week, and, you know, there will be some kind of overarching big bad. And there was a little bit of that element, I think.
Yeah, but it's really not as episodic as WandaVision was.
Yeah, but, like, for me, this first episode goes like, you know what? Have you not been sufficiently curious about who Falcon and Winter Soldier as individuals really are? Turns out I haven't. I haven't been nearly curious enough. I didn't really realize I didn't know anything about Sam.
Yeah.
Like, not the first thing.
I think what is, like, I love Anthony Mackie's portrayal of the Falcon in the MCU movies. I think that he is critical to the appeal of the Winter Soldier, and his character is critical to the plot of the Winter Soldier. But once we get beyond the Winter Soldier, Falcon really takes a back seat in the rest of the movie.
And it's a little bit unfair because he started out kind of as this foil, and then there was, like, Bucky comes back, and then there's, like, a little playful, like, competition of who's really his best bud.
Yeah.
But we know in our hearts it's Bucky.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah, and so, you know, Bucky, Sebastian Stan, since we've been with him since the first Avenger, like, the love that Steve feels for him, we feel for Bucky as well. So I think we are way more invested in Bucky's character and outcome and the tragedy of his existence than we are Sam's. But this episode really, really makes you, like, I came away from this episode going, like, I'm very excited for Sam's story in this show.
I think that they did a great job of setting up that Sam's pressures as one of the Avengers and as an American person, veteran, it's completely different than anybody we've met in the MCU thus far. And that maybe we were just kind of, like, I feel like I was just kind of taking him for granted. Well, just like his buddy Captain America, taking him for granted.
That's right. Well, like, Steve Rogers is without a doubt my favorite Avenger character in the movies and also in the comics. I adore that character. And what I adore so much about Steve Rogers when he is handled properly is the struggle that he has to wield the shield. It's a hell of a thing saying, I am Captain America. When you, drape your body in the American flag, you're taking on a lot. And, would Brad Gullickson, injected with the super soldier serum, feel comfortable calling himself Captain America? No. No, he would not. What's interesting to me is that Steve Rogers is born out of World War II, the greatest generation. The world is going to crumble. Democracy is going to crumble. Hitler's on the march. The Red Skull's on the march. I am fighting the good fight. We look at World War II as the good fight. He sacrifices himself, goes into the ice, wakes up in an America that is way different, or at least is obviously different. Like the America of the Avengers and the Winter Soldier is not the America that he thought he was fighting for in the first Avenger. And then, of course, he learns like Hydra's infected, S.H.I.E.L.D. and Nazis are actually, operating from within the institution that he loves. And that now he has to question his role as Captain America and what it means to wield that shield. And then Civil War happens and the Sokovia Accords. And he's starting not to feel comfortable being a government agent. And I think that happens in the comics, and I love it when that happens in the comic books. Now, where was I going to go with that? I was going to go with he, saves the day in Avengers Endgame with Tony Stark and the rest of the gang, goes back in time, lives a life. I'm sure he has many adventures that we don't actually get to see, which is a bummer because I really want to see him bring that Infinity Stone back to the Red Skull. What was that conversation like? But we don't get to see that conversation. And he lives into old age, which is where we meet him back at the end of Endgame. And he's got this shield with him, and he wants to give it to Sam. And Sam feels like it belongs to somebody else. And Steve says, well, it doesn't.
And then Sam says, F you.
Nah. Sam, he's a black man in America.
Right.
To put on the stars and stripes of America onto your body as a black man is even more complicated than it would be for Steve to do so or for Brad to do so, right?
Though I don't think they've even addressed that.
No, they haven't. I think all they've hinted at in this show is that Sam has doubts in whether he should do that, and because he knows. Well, I'm not Steve Rogers. Well, we don't actually know what he's thinking, but that's, I think, what we can infer. He never actually says that.
Well, but here's why I am inferring that. Yeah. Because he says it belongs to somebody else. He doesn't mean anybody else. Yeah. He means Steve.
It belongs to Steve, yeah.
When he hands it over to the Smithsonian, he assumes that everybody knows that it is Steve's. And
we're honoring Steve's legacy.
Exactly.
This is the house for Steve.
Yes, this is his
shrine.
He's like the pharaoh, and this is his tomb.
The temple.
Seal her up.
Yeah,
we just watched The Mummy.
Yeah.
We just rewatched The Mummy.
Exactly.
Seal her up. Like this, the legacy is done. We're putting it to rest. And of course, the United States is like, yeah, we'll put this in a glass cabinet for a second.
Yeah, 10 minutes a week.
Yeah, and then they're like, okay, well, we got this other blonde guy. He'll do.
Yeah. And I'm sure, John Walker, Wyatt Russell, Kurt Russell's son.
They couldn't have cast that better.
Oh, they couldn't have, they could not have cast it better, and they could have not shot that reveal at the end of this episode any better. And the way that awkward-ass suit, or especially the awkward-ass cowl, sits on Russell's head makes him look all the more punchable.
Yeah, it's so great.
It feels so offensive as MCU stands, as Steve stands, right? Let alone as Sam Wilson. And I think what that opening episode of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier does so well is, what does Sam do after the Avengers Endgame? He joins back up with the United States Air Force, and he starts doing missions. He falls back into the life he sort of had before he met Steve Rogers. And it's a routine. So he doesn't.
But he's not like War Machine.
I mean, but that's what he's basically becoming War Machine.
Yeah, but I mean, I feel like he doesn't fall into it as naturally. I'm forgetting War Machine.
Don Cheadle, Rhodey.
Rhodey, there we go.
Yeah.
Where I feel like Rhodey is content to take orders, kind of. Like he is content to be either an agent of Steve Rogers or an agent of he's like, I like to be an individual within a team.
I think Rhodey is a military man.
Yes.
And he's he bleeds military, right? Yeah. What's interesting about Sam, if we go back to Winter Soldier, is he was out of the military, and that's how he was able to connect with Steve and, what it's like to sleep in a very cushy bed when you used to sleep on rocks in the field, right?
Yeah.
And Sam at that point is in the VA. Sam's actually a lot like our buddy Darren over at In the Mouth of Dorkness, the Disco Dork. You know, Darren still works with the VA and, you know, loves what he does. He loves helping fellow soldiers, veterans go through life post-military, like helping people adjust. That's what Sam was all about in Winter Soldier as well. And he took a lot of pride in that. And that's actually what he does for Steve in The Winter Soldier, is he's able to engage with Steve as a fellow soldier and say, like, it must be hard for you, you know, being not only back in civilian life, but, you know, being in this time.
But he also aligned with Steve in Civil War, where Steve goes like, I can't act on my conscience if I'm not a free agent.
Yes.
And I think that he's carrying a lot into, like, I'm not a military person. I am a government contractor.
Yes.
I don't even want the government to touch my toy Falcon.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Lay off my bird costume.
Yeah.
So when we see him in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and he is going into the United States Air Force, where Rhodey operates so easily, he doesn't have to like think about it whatsoever. It's a routine. It's something that he's like, well, this is what I can do. But I don't think that's not his end story. I think he has taken a step back, and in taking a step back and denying himself the shield, in letting the American government take control of Steve's legacy, he's going to realize what he really wants.
I think he's also enjoying being the Falcon.
Oh, clearly he's enjoying being the Falcon. He when you watch Sam in the Avengers movies, he loves being in the sky. He loves being in the suit. He loves kicking butt. Like, he loves bringing it to Batroc.
You know, as someone who, like, in his family, he wasn't the one who wanted to go into the family business. He was the one who wanted to make his own path. And so I think that there's something in him that, even though he loves Steve Rogers, I think that there is something in him that goes like I'm making my own way on my own path.
So that's what's exciting about this show for me, is you get to the end where his sister's like, you got to see what's on the news. Mm-hmm. And like, how often has this happened to us in the last 4 years?
Oh, God.
Where it's like, let's watch the news. Oh my God, my heart is sinking. What is happening to this country? What is happening? And so he sees John Walker wearing a uniform and carrying Steve's shield, and he's like, that's wrong.
Yeah.
And us as the audience go, that's wrong. And so, like, is the next episode Sam saying, like, I'm going to carry the shield? No. But he knows he doesn't want that dude to carry the shield. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure also we're going to see Bucky process John Walker carrying Steve's shield.
We didn't even get to see his reaction to it.
We didn't. And I'm curious to see if we will. I mean, we're definitely going to see some reaction to it. But you know, Bucky's not going to like Wyatt Russell walking around in that uniform.
I mean, is this the time to talk about it?
Sure. I don't know.
Pointed out to me where I didn't even think about it. Like, where'd that shield come from?
Yes. So, like, if you track the shield through the movies, in Civil War, Steve leaves the shield with Tony. It's scarred up from the Black Panther. It's got claws across it. It's all buffed and smashed to not to pieces, not yet, but it's all dinged up. He leaves it. He goes off into Avengers Infinity War. We see him again. T'Challa and Wakanda give him those really rad shield gauntlets so he can fight with those. And then in Endgame, after the blip, Tony returns the shield to Steve, and he's given it a new paint job. It doesn't, like, the claw marks are no longer there, and it looks really nice. And Steve uses that shield to go toe-to-toe with Thanos in that awesome, I am worthy action scene. And Thanos gives him a beating, and he shatters the shield.
Right.
And it's broken in half, as prophesized in Tony's vision in Age of Ultron at the start of that film. We see it broken. And that's a hell of a thing. And when Steve goes back in time, he has to return Mjolnir. So he's got Mjolnir with him. And he has to return the Infinity Stones to their rightful places. Again, he's got to go say hi to Red Skull.
That's not going to be awkward.
So he does not take the shield or the pieces of the shield back with him. But at the end of Endgame, when old man Steve Rogers is on the bench, he's got a shield.
Yeah.
Where'd that shield come from?
So, yeah, I like the idea that we were talking about off mic of Captain America never really quit being Captain America.
Yeah, I don't think
he
so.
was having adventures.
Yeah, I think like you could do a Disney Plus series or another trilogy of films where Steve Rogers in the past is, knocking the crap out of Hydra or whatever. He's returned those stones, and he's not going to stop being Steve Rogers. He's going to have the love of his life with him now, Peggy Carter. And I imagine him and Peggy are kicking ass back to back, right? Like, that's what I think happened. But the shield, so is that a shield that he reclaimed from the past? Yeah. Or did he create a new shield?
Yeah.
Or is that shield specifically made for Sam Wilson?
I mean, if it's made for Sam Wilson, then you don't get to return stuff like that.
Movies are funny because you get a scene like that and the scene ends. But, in real life, after Sam's like, it feels like it belongs to somebody else, and Steve goes, well, it doesn't. Well, there's more conversation to be had. Like,
flip it over. I engraved your name on it.
What happened after that scene? And, it always bothered me watching Steve leave and come back, and Steve gives the shield to Sam and not Bucky. And because, Sam or Bucky and Steve, that's the big romance. That's the big relationship of the Captain America films. So why does he give the shield to Sam? And when I rewatched Endgame the second time in theaters, I decided that there was a scene that we did not see before Steve went back in time. Because if you look at Bucky's reaction to Steve going back and returning the Infinity Gems, I think Bucky knows that Steve's not coming back. He says, "I'll miss you." I think he told Bucky before that scene that, hey, I'm going to go get Peggy. And I'm going to go live a life.
It breaks my heart that Bucky doesn't get to go back.
It's so
especially when you think about where he is in the beginning of this episode. Let's go to the scene of the date where he's on the date with this really pretty waitress. And they're having first date talk, which is supposed to be the talk that means nothing. Do you have brothers and sisters? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have sisters, but they're dead. Yeah. Right? What about your parents? Also dead. Yeah.
My best friend is
dead.
Well, he's not dead, but
he left me.
Yeah, and he's old. He's now old.
He's now old. And he says in his therapy session, he's tired, he wants peace, he doesn't really want to fight anymore. So
but because of his pardon situation, he has to make amends with certain people.
I find that super complicated.
Yeah, because they're treating it like AA, but this is not like AA.
Yeah, because and he's certainly not treating it like AA. He's treating it like, okay, I did some shit. And I have some loose threads. Yeah. And I have some things to tie up before I can
I love all
retire.
The idea behind all that, but I have more questions.
To me, I go is that going to be triggering for people who have had to go through actual AA situations, or are they going to find that super comforting? I don't know.
I can't answer that question.
But to me, I go I wouldn't blame Bucky if he barely has gotten out of being fully brainwashed. Uh-huh. And he already thought he was out once and got re-triggered by Zemo. Yeah. So I can understand him fully not trusting himself at the end of Endgame.
Of course. But it's not like Bucky could have gone back in time with Cap and fixed himself, because he would still have his experiences in the past.
Yeah, or in the future.
they don't go in the future. He goes in the past.
Yeah, he goes in the past. But when you go in the past, everything that you did in the present now becomes the future.
No, it's still your past.
I mean, it's your past, but they happened in the future.
Yeah. So, right. So
this is
whatever he changes creates another timeline. Blah blah blah. Like I don't have the energy or the time to talk about how time travel is used in Endgame. Like my theory is not the writer's theory. We're not talking about. You can ask me in Slack or on Twitter what I think is actually going on time travel wise. But if Bucky had gone back in time, he's not going to erase the trauma that he has experienced.
Yeah, of course.
Now, maybe he could have been back with his buds and that would have been more helpful. But I think where Bucky is at the end of Endgame is severely traumatized.
I like he talks briefly about Wakanda. Like, why?
He should hang out there. And that's what I love in this episode is he says, like, there was a moment in Wakanda where I was at peace. He should have stayed the White Wolf. Like
I wonder if Wakanda returned him because America is like he's technically
a war criminal.
And
does Wakanda have extradition with America? Maybe, I guess.
I don't know.
Wakanda seems pretty like we're going to do whatever we want to do.
Yeah, I don't know. It all seems very...
like I agree. If I was writing this series to get Sam and Bucky together, I would not have it set up the way it is. I like Sam being with the military, falling into that routine. And I think there's a lot of interesting stuff going on with wanting to make amends. I like the thought process there, but I would have kept Bucky in Wakanda. But of course, I'm sure they don't want to mess with Wakanda until we get to Black Panther 2. Mm-hmm. So they don't want to show any Wakanda stuff going on in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
I'm sure there are a lot of Seb stans that are very happy.
Yeah. It's interesting to me. I was listening to Malcolm Spellman do an interview on the Still Watching podcast with Joanna Robinson.
He's the writer, you guys.
Yeah, the head writer. And he was saying that when you are hired on to do a show like this, you walk into the room and you have all these characters that you can play with and select and pick. You're like, okay, well, I want to use Zemo. I want to use Sharon Carter. I want to use Batroc the Leaper. But you'll be picking people. And as you're picking people, there's other Marvel projects that are happening in other rooms. And they go like, hey, I know you just picked Wong. Let's say you wanted Wong in Falcon Winter Soldier. Well, actually, Wong's going to be really important in the Multiverse of Madness, so you can't use Wong. Or a better example would be like a character like... what's a side character?
Darcy.
Yeah, I want to use Darcy. Okay, you can. Oh, actually, we've now decided that Darcy's going to be in WandaVision, so we remove Darcy from Falcon Winter Soldier.
I think the true crime is why Batroc was up for grabs.
Well,
he should have been. He should be all over this universe.
I love Batroc.
He should be leaping all over the place.
When he pops up at the beginning of this episode, I was absolutely thrilled. I think. And again, going to Still Watching, talking about another podcast, it's great. Joanna Robinson was talking about, with Anthony Breznican, how they use that Batroc fight scene to visually mirror sequences from the Winter Soldier. And what she said, and I think is absolutely right, is that they are showing that Sam's doubts, like, I can't be Steve, I can't be Captain America, he's already being Captain America. Like that action scene proves that he has the physical skill to be on an equal playing field with Steve Rogers.
Even without serum.
With that exoskeleton suit and his little drone buddy Red Wing. Oh. He's a super soldier, right? And so what Sam needs to do is... And what Marvel needs to do, Marvel Studios, is find a reason for him to say, I will be Captain America. Which, again, for a black man in this country in 2021, it's very complicated, right? Like, this country is built on blood and bones, and on the backs of slaves, and that flag, the American flag, represents a lot of heinous shit.
Oppression, yeah.
A lot of oppression. And for a black man to wear that flag and charge into battle, some things need to be reckoned with. And I think this show is going to be about that.
So you were taking a little gander at that IMDb page.
I was.
And a name popped out at you.
Well, I mean, Carl Lumbly is in the cast. Carl Lumbly, if you were a 90s kid and you liked superheroes and comics, you were all about the television show Mantis.
I've never even heard of it.
I know. Carl Lumbly played Mantis, and he was a scientist, wheelchair-bound, who built an exosuit, and he became the superhero Mantis. And he was a badass. And so I see Carl Lumbly on that cast, and I see Malcolm Spellman talking about the comic book Truth, Red, White, and Black, written by Robert Morales and and illustrated by Kyle Baker. And I go, we're gonna step back in time. We're gonna have some flashbacks, and we're gonna learn about the Black Captain America, Isaiah Bradley. And if you have not read the Truth, Red, White, and Black series, I think you really should do so. It's one of the best Captain America comics ever made. Unfortunately, not in print, not in physical print right now, but it is on the Marvel Unlimited app.
Marvel.
It's super annoying that it's not in physical print.
Fumbling.
But it's a story based on the Tuskegee syphilis study, which is a study in which the American government
just let a bunch of human beings go crazy with syphilis.
Correct. I mean, it's just one of many atrocities. And so what you learn is that 300 black soldiers during World War II were experimented on as guinea pigs, and all of them died, with the exception of Isaiah Bradley, who became the first black Captain America. And that comic ends with Steve Rogers learning that there were other super soldier serum experiments done in his name. He wasn't the first Captain America. They didn't invent that name for him. Well, I mean, it's more complicated. Like in the comic book, it's weird. I'm curious to see how they deal with it in the show.
Okay.
Like Marvel's like, no. Steve Rogers is still the first Captain America, guys. These were happening just after those experiments. So when Dr. Erskine was killed, they hired these other scientists to work on a bastardized version of the super soldier serum, which is what they injected in these 300 soldiers.
Oh, okay.
So I'm hoping they go like, this guy was first, but we'll see if they actually do that. And so I see Isaiah Bradley in the cast, and I think we're going to get either flashbacks.
Carl Lumbly. You see Carl Lumbly in the cast.
Sorry. Yeah.
You've already cast him, though.
I've cast him. He has no name next to his credit on IMDb. I think he's Isaiah Bradley. I think we are going to explore the dark history of this country through the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And like, do I think it's going to be a Spike Lee movie? Like, do I think the Falcon and the Winter Soldier is going to be Da 5 Bloods? I don't think it's ever going to be that honest or scathing, but I do think it's going to be a little scathing. And I think every Captain America story is a political one, and it should be one that explores why a man wears the flag on his chest.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you brought up Slack briefly.
Yes.
I think we do have, if you are, what is the levels? The level that gets to be on the
Dearly Beloveds and Happily Ever Afters, the $5 and $10 level.
So if you are our Dearly Beloveds or the other one,
Happily Ever After.
Ever After.
You've signed up now for Patreon.
I know, but I signed up for the lowest level.
Yeah, you did.
I did, because I couldn't see any of the comments or listen to the episodes. So I was like, I want to hear us. I want to hear what I said. See if I sound like an idiot.
So people on Slack have been talking about Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Yeah, so we do have a spoiler channel. So if any of you, like myself, want to upgrade, you can. Okay. So sorry, I scrolled up. Why did I do that?
I don't know.
Shara is looking for some more information on who is John Walker exactly.
John Walker,
the U.S. agent, right?
Well, yes, but before he was U.S. agent, he was Super Patriot.
Ooh.
He was created by Mark Gruenwald in the 80s, part of that run, which is a really delightful and strange run of comics. I highly recommend it. It's also where Cap Wolf, the werewolf Captain America, comes from. But John Walker started off as a dark mirror to Steve Rogers. He was the villain super patriot, and he was basically patriotism taken to an extreme, something we are very well aware of in this country right now. And, you know, where Steve was an urban street kid, poor, John Walker was a Southern middle-class well-off kid. And, you know, he wanted to be Captain America. He wants to do what Captain America does, but he does it maybe a little more aggressively and with a different set of values than Steve has. And eventually, Steve Rogers in the 80s in the comics walked away from being Captain America. He became disenfranchised with his role, which is what we've been talking about. And he stepped down. And when he stepped down, the American government's like, well, we don't want Steve anyway. Let's take Super Patriot and make him Captain America. And there's 30 issues of comics where John Walker is Captain America. And what those comics are about is how taking on the role of Captain America changes John Walker as a human being. He wants to live up to the title. And he starts to become a better person. And so they start to make John Walker a good guy, in quotes. And he eventually teams up with Captain America, Steve Rogers. Steve Rogers and John Walker learn that, guess what? Red Skull, he's doing some shenanigans from behind the scenes, and he's actually living in a cloned body of Steve Rogers.
Oh, Jesus.
And the three of them all go into a brawl, and they kick Clone Daddy Red Skull's ass. They actually melt the Steve Rogers face, and Steve Rogers' body now has a red skull. It's just issue 350, I think. I just reread it. It's an awesome comic. I really, really like it. It's very 80s, but that run of comics is very interesting. It's about how the mantle changes John Walker's heart.
And they recently came out with another, like, U.S. Agent. I read it. I was not into it.
Yeah, so U.S. Agent American Zealot, written by Christopher Priest, is the most recent version of John Walker. He's very pathetic. He's a military contract, a private security guy. I don't think the comic is great. I think it is interesting in the fact that this is how they want to portray John Walker in the comics today, knowing that he was going to come and be a foil in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Similar to how they just recently did the Falcon and Winter Soldier series by Derek Landy. And that version of Falcon and Winter Soldier in the comic book is very much what we're going to see in this show. It's a midnight run, Lethal Weapon, another 48 hours, buddy cop comic. And the personalities don't really feel like the Sam Wilson and Bucky Barnes that we knew before this comic. The way, like, they're changing the personalities in the comics to match Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan, basically. So that's John Walker.
Now, Andy W. is wondering if Torres is just a nod to the comic or if he's actually going to take on a bigger role. So Torres in the comic comes from the Nick Spencer Captain America run where Sam Wilson was Cap. And, Captain America is partnering up with Misty Knight through that series. And there is a new Falcon in that run. And Torres is the new Falcon. I hate that run of comics. I hate Nick Spencer's Captain America. I wasn't like in love with Rick Remender's run right before that, although I thought Rick Remender's version of Sam Wilson was much more interesting than what Nick Spencer ultimately did with that comic. Nick Spencer's Captain America is basically saying, like, there's good and bad on both sides. Leftists can be radicals as much as right-wingers. Which is like the old school Marvel stance. Yeah,
like it's the Stanley centralist point of view that I don't cotton with. And so whatever. But Nick Spencer, his run has some good art. Daniel Acuna on the first run is pretty great. That builds to the Secret Empire storyline where you get Hail Hydra Captain America. Whatever. So Torres, Lisa, you told me earlier, how many episodes is Torres supposed to be in?
According to IMDb, just one. Yeah,
IMDb is not always right. But I don't think Torres is going to be a huge role.
He's so handsome. I would not mind looking at that actor.
He's handsome, but like, what is he doing in this episode? Is he acting on his own when he goes to Switzerland and encounters the Flag Smasher group?
He's taking his cues from Falcon. He wants to be a contractor as well.
So he's not working with the military, I guess, at that moment when he's in Switzerland?
I think that he's kind of doing some, like, he works for the government, but he's kind of doing some
personal undercover work.
Yeah, for Falcon.
Yeah, I mean,
it's super suspect. I wouldn't be surprised if he was like a double agent.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see if we get more Torres.
I'm gonna look up that
don't
actor's
care.
name. Danny Ramirez.
Yeah, he's good at it. He's fine. I just don't love what's going on with that character.
There's something that Jason Ayers said.
All right,
I couldn't find the character's name, so I apologize. But the dad of the guy he's doing amends for.
The old man?
Yeah. I hate to try and guess at what his name was.
I think I could find it on IMDb.
I'm on IMDb, and weirdly I couldn't find it.
Well, this is the great thing about podcasting, especially on the Patreon, because the Patreon listeners don't want us to hit cut.
You Google it. I'm trying to podcast. You guys can look it up. But Jason Ayers was like, when I first saw him, I thought he maybe would have been one of the Howling Commandos.
That's what I thought too.
And so, but that brings an interesting idea of, are we going to see any Howling Commandos pop up for Bucky? That would be
the character's name is Yori, and he's played by Ken Takamoto. I think that is a definite possibility, and if I'm right in Isaiah Bradley coming in and we get some flashback, I think we could get flashback with characters we already know, like Dum Dum Dugan, right? Like, I think we could see some Howling Commandos in this series.
How fun would that be?
Yeah, I think it would be super fun. We could, I don't think they're going to do it, but we could have Red Skull in this series.
We could.
We could have Joanna Robinson. Again, I'm giving a lot of plugs.
I'm sick of you bringing up this other woman. Well, it's making me feel.
I've been, I'm obsessing over Falcon Winter Soldier. I listen to all Falcon Winter Soldier podcasts, and I just listened to this episode before we hit record. But Joanna Robinson says, we could see Red Skull. We could see Stanley Tucci.
How fun.
As Dr. Erskine.
Well, I hope all of her predictions don't come true, because I want this woman that you keep talking about to be disappointed, because I feel in competition with every other woman podcaster
I know.
For the airtime and your heart.
But she has no place in my heart, okay? You can just be confident in that. But I do think that Jason is onto something. I think we could see some Howling Commandos and more characters from the first Avenger pop up.
Yeah.
What else we got? Anything else from the Slack?
That's it. I like integrating the Slack into our episodes.
I do too.
I think that's fun.
I do too. So we are, like we did with WandaVision, going to continue talking about the Falcon and Winter Soldier in the spoilers section of our Slack channel. So post anything there, and when we bring up this show again later in the month, it's only 6 episodes long.
Sad.
So it'll take us through April, early May when it'll be done. And then they announced Loki is going to be June 11th. The Loki series. Very excited about that. And, of course, we got the Black Widow movie, which I'm also eagerly anticipating. I saw someone on Twitter saying, like, do any of us really care if we see this Black Widow movie or not? And all I got to say is yes. Guys, the Black Widow movie is based on a story, an original screenplay by Jack Schaefer, who was the head writer on WandaVision. So, like, her Black Widow work got her the gig on WandaVision. We all love WandaVision. I think we should pay attention to what's going to go down in Black Widow. So I'm excited about that.
Why would you tweet about not being excited? Like, if you're not excited about something, you guys know me. I tweet my thoughts. I comment to you guys exclusively, and then I duck out.
Anything we have not covered on this show? We didn't really talk about the Flag Smashers. In the comics, it's like 2 separate characters. There's the original Flag Smasher and the separate Flag Smasher. His idea is like borders are bad, governments are bad, countries are bad. We're one nation under the globe.
That sounds heavy.
Like, we're one planet and we should act as one planet. And I think the way that is dealt with in this first episode is interesting. With these Flag Smashers believe that life was better during the blip, when there was less of us, and the tragedy of the blip unified the planet in a way that it never did before. Which,
they're kind of like the maybe Thanos was kind of right.
Maybe Thanos is kind of right, but also like Adrian Veidt from Watchmen, right? We need a space squid to unite the planet to fight against.
Right.
And we need a global threat so we can stop bickering amongst ourselves. And so I mean, I understand that. I get that.
It makes me wonder, like, once, COVID has gotten the way of
the dodo.
Polio or
better metaphor.
What is the status quo really going to look like? And are there going to be people who are like, we really should actually just be living in our houses and not polluting the planet by driving just for the fun of it and stuff like that?
That's what I'm loving about WandaVision and the Falcon and Winter Soldier and probably Loki is it takes these like major things that happen and says, well, let's explore the consequences of those major things. Like, let's look at the blip in a way that Spider-Man Homecoming could not, right? That didn't have the time or the space to do. And so here we have two shows, WandaVision and the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, dealing with grief and this horrible, unbelievable thing called the blip.
We probably actually should be wrapping this episode up. But I do like the relationship between Sam and his sister.
Yes.
And the fact that Sam blipped.
Yeah.
And she did not.
Yeah.
And there is palpable resentment.
Yeah. How could there not be? Yeah.
Because she had to live those 5 years, and those 5 years gave her growth and perspective. And then her brother pops back in and is like, well, now I have 5 years less of life experience, and yet I still have 50% of this boat.
Yeah.
So,
I loved all of that stuff. Like, I think some people were, I saw reactions on Twitter again, they were a little disappointed with how measured this episode was. But for me, I'm like, oh no, let's make it more measured. Let's take another episode and not have Bucky and Sam together. Like, let's build up to their buddy cop dynamic.
Because of WandaVision, I'm like, at least two episodes of weird, please.
Yeah. So there you go. I'm very excited about Falcon Winter Soldier. I was excited beforehand. I love what I'm seeing. I'm really curious to see how we incorporate Zemo, Daniel Bruhl's villain, into this show. I hope we get to see Batroc the Leaper. He leapt out of that helicopter, Lisa. He's still around. I want more of him.
Yep.
Let's give him a mustache. He needs to twirl it.
I feel like leaping out of a plane doesn't really count as leaping. That's mostly falling.
He also did some leaping inside that plane.
It was light leapage. It was more jumping. I want to see some real...
Yeah, we want some real leaps.
I want to see him go for distance.
Okay. Okay, I guess that's going to do it for us. We hit an hour mark on this episode, Lisa.
That's weird.
Yeah. Falcon Winter Soldier, MCU, we love it. We will be back talking about the Falcon Winter Soldier when it is all wrapped.
What? Oh, so that's the plan.
Like we did with WandaVision.
Is that what we did with WandaVision?
It is what we did with WandaVision.
That wasn't our plan, though. Our plan with WandaVision was to do 1, 3, and 6.
Yeah, and we didn't do that.
Yeah.
We didn't do that.
But I say we still make that plan and then not do it.
Okay. All right. We can do that. 1, 3, and 6. 1, 3, and 6. Falcon and Winter Soldier. But I want to get back to talking about comics on our Patreon.
Yeah, of course.
It's been so long since we've had a Married to Singles episode.
I know. And I feel super behind in comics.
Yeah. Oh, my God. Well, during South by Southwest, I removed myself from Slack. I removed myself practically from Twitter. I feel like I have not been doing a good job with CBCC over the past week. I've got some guilty feelings. And now, because we had that conversation at the start of this episode about what a shithead I am, denying you
I'm
movies.
so sorry. I wait until you're on the record.
Yeah. But the moral of that story is always listen to Lisa. One, and just because you're feeling one way doesn't mean that that's the thing,
Right.
know. So once I pulled the trigger on South by Southwest, honestly, I had so much fun watching those movies. It rekindled my enthusiasm for movies.
Well, I like the fact that even like you. I'm making this episode longer.
That's okay. It's a Patreon. They're paying for this.
I like that the sense of scarcity a film festival creates, because you go like, I gotta watch all these movies because they're going to be gone, and you don't know if they're going to get picked up anywhere else, or if they're going to be released, or if movies will continue to exist after this. You know, so it's just like I felt like it's just like get everything in that you can. Like yesterday, we barely left the couch.
We watched 6 movies,
and we ordered Indian food, and it was the best.
It was the best. We left after lunch to take a walk. To get some vitamin D.
Yeah.
And that was great. And I'd like to go for a walk now after this podcast, actually.
That's probably a good idea.
All right. So the Falcon Winter Soldier, thumbs up from Brad.
Vitamin D doesn't sound dirty to me. When people are like, I got to get that vitamin D. I'm like, yeah, D. You do.
This B, Brad, needs some D. B needs D. give me some D. But thumbs up from Lisa, right?
Yeah, 2 thumbs up.
Okay, cool. All right. You know where we are on our socials. So at Sidewalk Siren for Lisa, at Mouthdork for Brad.
If you want to get on that Slack, you can always up your Patreon. No pressure.
But for those that are dearly beloved and happily ever afters, let's really go to town this week on spoilers and talk about Falcon Winter Soldier. New episode on Friday. Get a little more Wyatt Russell. Wyatt Russell, like, I got to shut up. This episode's got to end. But I love Wyatt Russell.
Who doesn't?
Yeah. Well, you know, we need a Wyatt Russell, Kurt Russell movie.
I like that mantle was passed. The Russell mantle.
The Russell mantle. That's a good mantle passed. Also, Kurt Russell is Ego in Guardians of the Galaxy. So it's a family
business.
Where's Kate Hudson and Goldie Hawn now? We got to get them in.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
All right. That's it. Until next time, folks, keep your love tank full.
And your psychic report.
You just making this longer.
Oh, Brad.
You sound like Sam Jackson in The Hateful Eight. You're gonna make a deal with that diabolical bitch.
I hurt my tongue doing that.
Doopy doopy.